All right, how you going, guys? So this video today, this training is all about the consultation in the 8-step client blueprint to success, from the first contact with the potential client all the way through to the purchasing appointment. This is the number one most important step in that process. This is the 8-step client blueprint to success. If you haven't got that already, you should. If you haven't, let me know. So this is where we really establish, firstly, if they're our client, and if they are, how we get them emotionally involved and give them an experience or start their experience. So what you're creating here is not just a commodity, it's not just a photo shoot, it's more of an experience, and you're getting them emotionally involved. So when you're calling a client or they call you, when you're starting out in this process, it's really important to have this in front of you, which has got all the questions that we're going to go through today. So it's just like the consultation form. Once you've done it a while, you don't really need this, but it's important to have it. So even if while we're going through this training, have it in front of you. So the first important aspect of the consultation is to establish commonality and rapport with the client. So what I mean by that is, when you're building rapport, people buy from people they like, and people like themselves. So if you get someone on the phone that's really upbeat and outgoing, you've got to bring yourself up to match them, and it's called mirror and matching. So if they're really upbeat and you're really low, there's going to be a disconnect there. They're not going to trust you. So you have to bring yourself up, and vice versa. If they're really quiet and timid and you're an excitable person, you've got to bring yourself down closer to their level. You've got to bring that excitement still, but you can do it at a more mellow level. And also you can feedback words that they use and that sort of thing. And when you're in person, you can do this in a bit more detail, so you can actually mirror and match their movements of their hands and how they're sitting, that sort of thing. But that's more in the planning appointment and the purchasing appointment. And when I say establish commonality, so what that is it's really just finding something that you can have in common with that person. So once you start asking questions like, where did you get the voucher? Who's in your family? What sort of shoot were you looking at doing? That sort of thing. You can start to pick things out. So it might be, I've got 3 kids, and I can say something like, I've got 3 kids too. Or how old are they? Blah, blah. I've got a 3-year-old, or I've got 2 boys, or something that you've got in common with them. It might be a footy team you go for, or where they live, or during the process of this, find that commonality, because that gives you another layer of trust with the client as well. So that's key first. Then we ask a series of questions. So firstly, it's pretty much finding out where they got the voucher from, if they got a voucher, or where they heard of us, who's in the family, if it's a family shoot, and who you want to photograph. And have you thought about what you're wanting to do, and just get an idea of where they're at. Like, some people have got totally no idea where they want the shoot done or what they're going to do. Other people are really committed already to what they want. So the first question we ask, once we've got all the details of the family members and ages and all that sort of thing, is, have you had a professional shoot before? Now, the reason we ask that question is then we can work out where they may be in relation to what we do. So we might go, so have you had a professional shoot done before? And they will either say yes, or, oh, we had a shoot done, but I wouldn't call it professional. It was like someone here, blah, blah, blah. So then we know, okay, like for us, they might have done a shoot and they might say, yeah, we got a shoot and it was $200. We got them all on USB. Now, straight away, we're thinking, okay, they're not in our ballpark for what we do now with that sort of shoot. But then I can say, okay, how did you find that experience? Or did you love the photos? And they might say, oh, they were terrible, or we really hated the experience. And then you can really say something like, well, that's why we specialize in wall art, or bring it so they know what you do is totally different to that situation. Now, if they say, yeah, we've had a professional shoot done before at X studio, and we can say, oh, fantastic, they do beautiful work. What did you end up purchasing, or did you put something on the wall? And then they might say, yeah, we got 2 really large canvases and we love them. So when they say something like that, we know at our studio, okay, they're in our price bracket probably, because we might know that studio, or we know they've bought some wall art and they've actually displayed it and they loved it. so they know the process of a professional studio. So that's number one. Then we ask, so let's say we've got 3 kids, for example, and we usually start with the youngest, and we want a bit more detail about each of the kids. Now, the reason we want this is because this gets them emotionally involved in the shoot. So it's not just a commodity or a photo shoot, or, they've probably never been asked these questions before. So we say something like, okay, let's start with Tex, your youngest child. So Tex is 3. How would you describe him in a few words? How would you describe him in 3 words, personality-wise? And you say it sort of slow, because they've probably never been asked this question before. Some people struggle with it. And if they do, you don't leave a silence too long. Just go, look, it's okay. It's probably a question without notice. What's he like? Explain him to me. And some people will just reel off 5 minutes of what their child's like, because people love talking about their children in general. So let's do an example. They might say he's cheeky, really inquisitive, and really fun. Now, what you want to do, and it says it on here, you want to elaborate a bit more. So pick one of those words. So let's say it's cheeky, and go, okay, what's something that he does that's cheeky that you really love? And the mum might say, when he goes up and he tackles his brother and they start wrestling, you get this cheeky look on his face. And you can say then, wouldn't that be amazing to capture that moment and that photo? So all of a sudden now she's visualizing a particular shot that you can capture. And generally when you say stuff like that, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that moment you can capture. Whether you do or not in the photo shoot is irrelevant to a little, sort of some extent. And generally they go, that would be amazing to capture that. You go, great, cool. Okay, so then you go into the other kids, or if it's just one kid, you might go, so tell me about the relationship with Tex and his dad. And I did an example the other day. So, and this photographer was talking about her family, and she goes, he loves trucks. His dad's a truck driver, and they love to, go in his truck. They got model trucks. He loves everything trucks. And then I say something like, wouldn't it be amazing to capture a beautiful shot of them both playing with their model truck together, or in his dad's truck? And then she goes, yeah, that would be amazing. And then, okay, what's your relationship with your son? And we're very cuddly, and this is what we love to do. Okay, wouldn't it be great to capture that? So all of a sudden you're building a story of photos you can capture for them. So it's not just a photo shoot anymore. They actually visualizing particular shots that mean a lot to them. So they're becoming emotionally involved, which is really what you want. So you're creating another layer here. So then you might go on to, okay, so now we've worked out all these shots we're going to capture. So you might, at this stage, you might talk about location. So if we're going to do trucks, for example, you might do it on their property, but generally here we do in the studio, our outdoor studio, or one park we shoot at. They're the 3 main ones, and we work out where that's going to be and go into a bit more detail of shots we can capture and what that's going to be like, and creating an experience for them. Now, the second part to this is working out where they want to display the photos. So we'll ask a follow-up question like, okay, so now we've talked about all these amazing shots we're going to capture. Ideally, where would you love to display these photos? And they'll either say, I haven't thought about it, or I don't know. In that case, you go, okay, if you were to think about it, or where would you love to see them every day? Like, is there a space in your house that you've got room on a wall, or is it something? See where they go with it. When other people will know straight away. And let's just say they go, on our lounge room wall above the couch. And this is different for every studio, how much you quote, but for us it's around $1,000. So we might say, okay, cool. So you might ask them to explain the couch or the vibe of the room, or do they like frames or canvases, that sort of thing. And then you're going to quote a specific product. So for us it's around $1,000. So we've got something on the wall we quote for $1,000, and we've also got the off-the-wall products down here, so it depends what they like. So you might say something like, okay, so what I'm visualizing is a really beautiful shot of the 3 of you walking through the park together on one side, then a really cool shot of Tex and his dad in his truck that we can capture on the other side, then one of you and Tex like cuddling and having a great time in a nice framed collage. Something like that above your couch. You're looking around $1,000 once you take your voucher off. How does that sound? Now, always finish with how does that sound, because they have to take the price in process it, and then give you some feedback. So they'll either say, that sounds fantastic, because they're right into it now, they're emotionally involved and they're visualizing the product. So if that's the case, then we go to the next step. If they say, this is called temp gauging, so you're temperature gauging where they're at. So they may say, oh, it's a bit out of my price range. Now, if they say that, what we would say was, okay, that's okay. We do have other products. We've got something like a canvas to put on the wall, a single canvas for around the $500 mark. Once you take your voucher off, how does that sound? Then they might say that's more within our price range, or they might say it's still too much. Now, this is where we might say something like, look, we might not be the right photographer for you. We're very upfront with our prices, and most people can't just pick one. It's usually like at least a 5 set for $1,000. Just letting you and then see where they're at. So they might still want to come in for the planning appointment, which is our next step in the process. And if they say that sounds fantastic, then we go to the planning appointment. So I say, now what we do is we get you in for a 15-minute planning appointment where we can go through what to wear in more detail. You can see our displays on the wall, and we'll work out where and when we're going to do the photo shoot. We've got Thursday and Friday available this week. Would either of those times suit? And you give them a couple of options. Ideally, you want them to be coming in that week. So the quicker you can get this done, they're still excited, the better it works, and the less likely you are to get cancellations and reschedules and that sort of thing. So a couple of keys here. So you're establishing commonality first to make them feel comfortable. Then you're getting them emotionally involved and visualizing the shots. And then you're getting sort of actual visualizing where they're going to be in their house. So you're adding layers here and an experience on the phone to start with. So it's not just an email, prices in a way. This is different to everyone else they've sort of probably dealt with. So you're stepping up, and the value's getting higher and higher on this call. And we only usually quote 1 to 2 prices tops, because it's not about the product. It's not about giving them all the options. It's just about seeing if they're in the ballpark and them getting an idea of where we sit on a price level. Because price becomes a little irrelevant through this process. But what we generally do is you start with $1,000 on the phone. They come in for the planning appointment. We up that to around $2,000 quote when they come in for a planning appointment. You may or may not do this at the moment or plan on it. And then we end up around the $3,000 mark. So it's a 3-step process. But if we quoted them $3,000 on the phone, you'd lose a lot of people because they just don't see the value in it at that stage. But when you take them on the process, they do. So then you book them in ideally that week for the planning appointment, or if you don't do planning appointments yet, I highly recommend you do. You book them in for the shoot as soon as you can while the excitement's there and that sort of thing. And then you send your emails and your information from there. So that's the consultation in a nutshell. If you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out. If you're one of my coaching clients already and you're watching this, then we can discuss this in more detail on one of our calls. But that is pretty much the basis of the consultation. And it is critical as the number one key step in the whole process of really setting up and structuring how your relationship with the client is going to be moving forward, and also if they are going to be your client. So a lot of people aren't your client, so they will go out this side, and when you say and you're upfront with people, they really appreciate it. Like, we don't hide our prices, and we don't want people coming in that can't afford what we do, because it's no point for us, we're wasting our time and money, and we're wasting their time and money too, because we don't want them to go through the whole process and not be able to afford the photos they want. Obviously on this, the other thing I didn't mention is we do talk about payment plans if needed as well. We go through, if they say, it's a bit out of my price range, we then mention our payment plan options as well, and that can put a lot of people at ease. So I hope that's helped. I hope you got a lot of information about that, and wrote lots of notes, and start implementing this into your process and watch your averages and your client retention go up quite a lot.